Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. This week's edition is going to be filled with joy, it's going to be filled with hope, and it's going to be filled with recrimination, of course, as well. It's the one place you can be as judgmental as you want, because nobody minds. This is where we tell you who the biggest planks of the week have been, and I'll pick the winner right at the end. I'm delighted to say that here with us for your delectation, we have Kevin O'Sullivan, who wasn't here very long ago, but we like him that much. We've asked him to come back on. Laura Dodsworth is visiting in as well. Thank you very much. Got a new book out very soon. Alan Miller from Together. Welcome back to you. And Isabel Oakeshott, talkTV's very own international editor. And here, of course, is what they all want to win. It's the Plank of the Week plank. So, let's do nothing better than to start with you, Kevin O'Sullivan. Who have you got for us?
Shamima Begum.
That's it. She's the winner, obviously.
Okay,
I'll just put that away.
We can all go home. That's it.
So, she's the ISIS bride who this week lost her appeal to get her British passport back. The case was held at something called the Immigration Commission, where a judge ruled that she can't have her citizenship back, and if she wants to go and live anywhere, she can go and live where her grandparents live in Bangladesh. She doesn't want to do that.
Fancy that.
She doesn't want to do that because she said her life might be at risk. Who cares? And I just wish that this woman would just leave us alone. She's costing this country a lot of money. The judge actually said, annoyingly, infuriatingly, that she did have a credible case to claim she was trafficked.
Yeah.
Of course, she left this country some years ago at the age of 15 with two of her female friends. And they headed for Syria to join the Caliphate, the ISIS state, where she became an ISIS bride, married an ISIS warrior, helped him sort of arm his ammunition and go out and kill people, used to wander around the street shrugging her shoulders as she looked at wastepaper baskets full of beheaded heads, watched them push gay people off the top of high buildings, didn't think that was any sort of a problem. When first interviewed, said she had no regrets about joining ISIS. Yeah. And the judge said she had a credible case for saying she'd been trafficked. So she was 15, OK, that's marginally underage. I didn't see anyone trafficking her.
No.
She left voluntarily, didn't she? And also, I find it a bit strange how this trafficking argument has been wheeled out so belatedly.
Yes.
I mean, they weren't going big on this as a defence several years ago, were they?
Not at all.
It's as if they've just realised that this could actually be quite a powerful thing, and it's now being wheeled out. I found it incredibly distasteful seeing her posing on the front of magazines.
Yeah,
you know, I just thought it just felt completely wrong.
Not to mention the BBC's podcast series.
Yeah, I mean,
well, that's the thing. I think there's a couple of things here, aren't there? On the one, that they're kind of presenting her as a victim now, rather than someone who had any agency. I think that's really problematic, and a lot of journalists are doing that. Somehow we should feel sorry for her. I think there's an argument about the fact that British justice should be able to, with minors, be able to address those things. But I think it's true that, you know, if you look on record, when she first came back, she was still belligerent and saying that she hated Britain.
Well, she didn't come back.
Well, sorry, when she
first emerged.
And saying that she still hated Britain and what she said, and it's only now it's coming in the language of victimhood, and it's actually being sort of championed by a lot of journalists. It seems.
She's a cunning chameleon who has changed her spots according to what her requirements are. So all of a sudden, when she started to give interviews to the British press, her first interview, by the way, she never apologised for joining ISIS. No. She said she had no regrets.
And she had sympathy with terrorist attacks.
She had sympathy with their cause.
Before she went, she would have been well aware of genocide, beheadings and violence.
All of that.
And she was well above the age of criminal responsibility. Yeah. So while she was a minor, she's 15, she knew what she was doing. I think at that age, a 15-year-old knows what they're doing. Yeah. And I totally agree with Isabel. This trafficking is like a last straw resort in a bid for sympathy. And weirdly and very distastefully it worked, because what we've just been watching is the attempted rebranding of her as a victim and as a celebrity. And seeing what was a girl, you know, dressed in black, being totally unapologetic for what she'd done, wearing, you know, little vest tops and baseball bats, looking as Western as she possibly can, not too dressy, but very Western.
Well put together, considering she's in a refugee camp.
I mean, awfully like
she's got her own hair and makeup.
Where's she getting that from?
You know, she looked like she was styled, and there's something really distasteful about
that.
And
who's paying for a legal case?
Well, I believe that she's getting legal aid, so we're paying for that.
But go back to those pictures of when she headed for Syria. We saw all the pictures of her journey. 3 girls. Where were the traffickers? Where were the traffickers?
No, well, apparently you don't have to have traffickers with you if you're being trafficked.
Rubbish.
Apparently, that's
Absolutely.
one of the
I just think
the other thing is, right? The other thing is that obviously there was more compelling evidence from the intelligence chiefs because they haven't released that. But if the judge says there's a reasonably compelling case for her to say that she was trafficked, that must be outweighed by what they know about what she did, and that's why they haven't got rid of her.
She's a security risk. If she did come back to this country, it will cost us. It will cost us, and this is being costed up more than £1 million a year to monitor her. And so this nation, as she no doubt prepares to go to the European Court of Human Rights or something, we as a nation have said, right, we've heard your case. It's been rejected. You cannot now be a British citizen ever again. That's it. Go away, rot to hell in the desert for all we care, and we are not going to spend any more money pissing through the courts with you. Right,
thank you very much for that. We'll not take that bit out.
He's just done your job for you.
One final thing, because we asked about this earlier, some people thought, you know, if you did come back, you'd end up probably on some reality TV show.
Oh, 100%,
suggested, how about dancing on ISIS? Or indeed, 8 out of 10 caliphates, which I quite like as well. But anyway, that's enough of that. Laura Dodsworth, it's up to you now for the literary combination of the week.
Yeah, I think I've got a good contender this week.
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Puffin Books.
Very good.
Because Puffin Books hired a team of sensitivity readers to go through the whole of Roald Dahl's complete works of fiction for children. And they have imposed hundreds of changes to his original words. I take issue with a few aspects of this. First of all, what they're trying to do is make his work really woke, and you can't really imagine a less woke author than Roald Dahl, but they've tried to make it woke, and in so doing, they've treated people like idiots who don't understand different historical contexts. So one example will be they've described women as, in his original work, they were typists and cashiers, and the sensitivity readers changed that to top scientists and business women. Now, first of all, there's no shame in being a cashier or typist.
Exactly.
Secondly, I think readers understand that women had different opportunities in different areas.
It's distorting history, isn't it?
It's distorting history, but more than that, it's distorting his original words. He would be turning in his grave. Now, actually, if he was alive today, he'd probably make mincemeat of the sensitivity readers, Puffin, the weak-kneed publisher, and Netflix, the bad media mogul empire.
Yes, unfortunately, they're the ones who own the copyright because the family on the estate of Roald Dahl sold his entire worth to Netflix, so they can't even stop it.
No, exactly. And I think probably as a result of this, authors are going to be looking to do what they can to lock up their words to make sure this kind of horrible rewriting of history can't happen. But although he'd be turning his grave, if he was alive now, he'd write a story about this. And you can just imagine it'd be really dark, really nasty. The baddies would get their comeuppance. In this case, the comeuppance we're going to get is that the books just won't sell. I can see an absolutely roaring trade for second-hand bookshops.
Imagine black market Roald Dahl.
Can't call it black market. I knew that.
Of course not. Sorry.
Yeah, you could. Well, that's exactly one of the things you wouldn't be allowed in the books.
Market of colour?
They're literally changing black as a colour description. Nothing to do with people's skin.
Also, ugly, fat, lots of gender descriptions. Now, the thing about the sensitivity
part of the joy of reading Roald Dahl, isn't it? The description of ugly, fat people. I mean,
and kids love that stuff.
Augustus Bloop, apparently. Augustus Bloop is the character who you cannot call fat. Have a look at this.
Isn't he, Wonka? It's his stomach that's done that.
He's blocking all the chocolate.
Oh, what happens now, eh?
Oh, the pressure will get him out. Terrific pressure is building up behind the blockage.
Oh, yes.
I wonder how long it's going to take him to push through.
The suspense is terrible.
He's going to go this time.
I hope it'll last.
Go on, boy, go on.
Brilliant. So Chuck has managed to pick a clip that doesn't show Augustus Bloop as
but
a fat boy.
Everybody
well
remembers,
done, Chuck.
Everybody remembers the film. But
That's
the thing
pretty
is,
scary, actually.
If you take the word fat...
You can't see that he's fat.
If you take the word fat off the page, you don't remove fat people from the real world.
No.
And that's the thing. You see, what these sensitivity readers want to do is not just to sanitise the pages. They want to sanitise your mind. This is all about changing how you think and how we imagine the world. It's actually part of a much bigger problem we've got with censorship at the moment.
You've written several books, as have you, Isabel. I mean, have you ever encountered anything like this? Did they ever kind of come back to you and say, oh, we've run this through the sensitivity department and we'll wonder if you could change that? Because presumably that will happen in certain situations, maybe not with with non-fiction, but certainly...
Got through some stern legal readings.
Well, legal's different. Well, legal's different, but I just wonder...
as a journalist, I always argue for the full-fat version. And
right.
No one wants to drink skimmed milk, do they? They want the full-fat
Well, around
version.
here, you can't get any milk, so, I mean...
Any milk would be a good thing.
Any sort of milk would be just fine.
I think it's ultimately children lose out from this, don't they? Because the sort of toned-down Roald Dahl, what's the point?
Yeah.
His core offer is that he's mischievous,
Absolutely.
is these wonderfully colourful descriptions.
This is quite literally Orwellian.
Yeah.
I mean, control the language and you control the people.
Yeah.
Peace is love. Peace is war. Love is hate, and so on and so forth, as in 1984.
Black is rainbow.
That's what's going on here. You look at all the other attacks on the language. You know, recently we've had, you know, females that can't be called... We know about people with cervixes. The latest one was egg producers. Men will be... No,
like
to be fair, it was sexually equal. Men will be called sperm producers.
What about the men who don't produce
Fitness has been banned by Kent University because it's a disableist or ableist, and so on and so forth. So when you control the language, you control the people. That's what's going on. And the other thing I really object to with... I mean, who are these people doing the rewriting? Spotty little people in offices, no doubt, with back.
No, they'll be working from home,
caps.
Kevin.
Who are they?
They will be working from home.
Yeah, and who... Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And
you can't call them spotty.
What next? We're going to rewrite Shakespeare?
Oh,
and so on?
Well, it's that's exactly what's happening. It's a
Stasi
Stasi-like moment where you have people saying what can and can't be seen by children, which is ironic considering lots of other things are being promoted to children a lot at school at the same
drag
time.
acts are fine.
I did like the fact that I thought the French publisher said we're not going to change this. And if we think about Je suis Charlie and Charlie Hebdo and the attacks on freedom and people saying we're coming out, this is the direct opposite of that. This is a situation where you've got a complete disdain for work, for craft, and also for free speech. I think it's really terrifying. But it has been happening across the campuses and in our schools for some time. And in fact, all of those debates, whether it's about Wagner, whether it's about Shakespeare, it's really an assault on anything that we hold up as being of greatness or popularity.
Yes.
And it's this new way that you can and can't say it. And it's deadening.
Well, I think these people have worked
should
out, haven't they, that they haven't been able to get elected to run the country from the left perspective. So what they've done is it's infiltrated everywhere else and gone, well, we won't have to worry about that. We'll just tell the kids in schools that this is the new way. We'll do it in universities. We'll ban this, we'll ban that. And then suddenly, before you know where you are, your kids are coming home going, you can't say that, Dad.
And it's thuggish, it's ugly, it's sinister. And it's also hypocritical.
That's just a good
they don't really care
explanation
about
of this show.
They don't care about any of this. It's like the attacks on statues. Oh, it's because it's connected to slavery. They don't care about the connections to slavery. They just want to topple someone like Winston Churchill. They want to attack the cenotaph because these are important central symbols of our culture and our tradition. They don't care about slavery. They don't care about what Roald Dahl says. They are just attacking us. They're attacking society.
It's true.
And they're winning. That's the problem.
Hopefully not. Alan, you've got the next one.
Yes, indeed. So Sadiq Khan has been consistently refusing to listen to democratic responses to his proposals. It's no longer a proposal, it's a I'm going to do it to expand ULEZ. Alongside that, we get daily arguments about why that he's doing it. And at the moment, what he's just done is he said that he's now going to... he's suggesting that the NHS in London provide an opportunity for people in the afternoons to see people because they're not going to be able to travel as OAPs over on the buses. So you've got a situation where he's now trying to impose that on other elements of the public sector, whilst he's still trying to drive through ULEZ, and at the same time, not providing extra buses, which he said he would, but now saying, well, that's not really part of the overall thing, whilst bus prices are going up, and places like Sutton are not getting them. So you've got this drive to say, we're just going to do it, we're going to ignore what anyone's saying about it, and then all sorts of other mechanisms that are really very problematic. So I think he definitely qualifies.
Well, definitely does. I'm glad to see, though, that there's about 5 councils, aren't there, around the outer part of London, which are involved in his expansion, who are now challenging him legally. They're not sure whether they've got the right to do that, and they don't know whether they'll win. But at least they're challenging. I think Bexley's one of them. I think Harrow's one of them. Sutton, I think, is another. Because it is absolutely unbelievable. Because what they're actually saying is that we're supposed to be doing this to make the air cleaner, but they're actually not making the air cleaner, because they're just saying as long as you pay to dirty the air, you can just pay, and then the air can be as dirty as you like. We'll just make a load of money.
Well, they've made the point as well that the air is cleaner there already, but also on its own terms, and it's been demonstrated in his own report, and these are modelers, we should remind ourselves, and modelers as opposed, but they've demonstrated that it wouldn't actually clean the air anymore, it just moves some things around, and there's a whole question of boundaries, very similar to low traffic neighbourhoods. Yeah. But all of that gets jettisoned by repeating platitudes. There's something that's going to be really interesting coming out very, very soon about this claim that keeps being made, because his only riposte at the moment is 4,000 deaths every year.
Yeah, rubbish.
Yeah,
absolutely rubbish.
Yeah, how many have been proved? One.
Yeah.
One.
Well, it hasn't even been proved, really.
And actually, to be fair, it was contributing cause to asthma, and, you know, that was not the first coronial decision on it either.
Yeah,
indeed.
No, it was an inquest.
What is the point of Sadiq Khan? Sorry, what is the point of him? I mean, to be Mayor of London should be a magnificent job in which you go around the world promoting London as one of the finest capital cities on the planet, and instead he's picking around, nitty-picking about the traffic here and a bit of diesel there and a bit of fumes there. Honestly, I just think he should think a bit bigger.
It's because it's easy.
I think he's also found a way. I mean, I said this before he brought this idea along, you know, how are they going to find new ways to tax us? Well, he's managed to find one, and he's managed to find another way to tax motorists.
All politicians now. It's as bonkers as something like the daylight tax, window tax. I mean, there's something that just feels so aggressive and small-minded about him. We don't want you to travel.
Right. I mean, you even get a tax now.
Stay in your pen.
You even get a tax now to drop someone off at Heathrow Airport, just to set them down, cost of £5.
Politicians do this because it's easy.
I dropped my daughter there. I was there for literally 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, she got out of the car, took her bag, £4.
Just feel fleeced every which way you turn.
This is the easy stuff. Politicians who say, we're going to save the planet, we're going to make the air cleaner, you know, don't you support it? As if we're going to go, no, let's let the planet die. Yeah. You know, and also although he wants to rejoin. I mean, he's the Mayor of London. He's going on about air quality, about saving the planet. London's air quality won't make any difference whatsoever to the global environmental situation. And he's also going on about it's time to rejoin. We've got to. What's that got to do with being Mayor of London?
He wants London to rejoin the European Union. I mean, to speak of these politicians and their grand plans, I did manage to get the answer that Grant Shapps wasn't expecting when he asked me when I interviewed him ages ago. Don't you want to be the world leader in onshore wind? And I went, no, not really. And obviously nobody had ever said that to him, and he was quite shocked. Anyway, the last one for this section, Isabel.
That's me, Suella Braverman. Now, I think it's very important to remember that she is actually the Home Secretary.
Yeah,
I think she is.
For the moment.
And she has been saying...
That's a terrible picture of her. Look
She's very happy, though.
Yeah... She's been... That's how I don't look when I contemplate her record of achievement in her high office of state. This is a politician who has been telling us month in, month out that the government is going to tackle the migrant boats. And every so often, you know, voters get distracted by other things going on. You know, the government makes enough noise on other issues that people temporarily take their attention off just how many people are still coming across the channel. Well, in recent weeks, literally another 2,000 people have come over. And this despite Rishi Sunak as well, standing up, continually saying, we're going to sort this out, we're going to do whatever it takes, blah, blah, blah. We now hear that the government is having to requisition a load more hotels. Yeah. All of this is paid for out of your taxes, your taxes, your taxes, my taxes. And I literally just don't think this is going to be resolved.
Worse than that, they've now been advertising this week, because we got contacted by somebody, certainly in Stoke-on-Trent, and there will be other places as well, for landlords to provide accommodation for migrants for up to 5-year leases, all expenses paid, all fees paid, all bills paid.
I mean,
so their plan, obviously, is to move them out of the hotels into houses.
It's just appalling. And the more you do this, the greater the vested interest in maintaining the status quo. More and more people are now making a very good living out of this.
There's loads of people making a fortune, aren't they? I mean, they're making a fortune bringing them here. The people who are housing them are making a fortune. Serco are making a fortune as the sort of, you know, the government contractor of choice. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Exactly
but also
right,
this week he said, we are very carefully crafting the new laws so that they'll work. And you kind of go, well, the ones you've got now don't work. What makes you think the new ones
do you remember
will
his
work
5-point plan about a month ago? Nothing's happened since then. There's 440 hotels across Britain full of migrants.
That's an awful lot.
They're currently commandeering 200 more.
200 more,
Rishi Sunak, Heidi High, wants to put them in holiday camps. So Suella Braverman, as you quite rightly said, Isabel, she went from being the new hard-line, hard-hitting Home Secretary who, unlike her predecessor, would solve the migrant crisis to Britain's hotel commandeer-in-chief.
Yes.
But is it Suella Braverman's fault, or is it the office of which she's a part?
Well, she doesn't need to be in that office. If she can't deliver, then I would advise that she just quits.
Well, all the Home Secretaries we've had, and I bet you can't count all of them all the way back to when Theresa May was Prime Minister, have all gone the same way, haven't they? They all come in and go, right, we're going to sort this all out. And then they get about 2 feet inside the door and go, oh, sorry, there's nothing we can do.
Our job, isn't it?
Is that a function of the Home Secretary or the office of which they're a part?
Well, the point, as Isabel quite rightly says, is if it's a function of the Home Office, then the Home Secretary should be able to sort that out.
Yeah.
But then she'll get accused of bullying like Priti Patel did.
Well, there is that problem, but it also demonstrates a lack of commitment generally, I think, amongst the political elite. And this is true about principle generally, and when you say you're going to do something and seeing it through.
Yeah.
And whatever the discussion about immigration is and asylum or not, and all of those important conversations, the public are clear about the situation. And the thing is, we've had lobbying civil servants who've pushed against it, right?
Yeah.
So this issue that Laura brings up is a concern, right? Where they actually
conspiring.
They move against you.
Well, I believe the Home Office union was actually suing the government over the treatment of the migrants. But we've got to move on because we're running out of time.
It's actually called the Working From Home Office now.
Sorry, the Working From Home Office. Very good. I like what you did there. Kevin O'Sullivan, as quick as ever. Don't talk so much in the next section because we're running over already. This is Plank of the Week. Back after this. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We've already got the first section away, and there's already 4 pretty good contenders there, I think. You might even have a winner already in that first part. It's my turn now, and I'm going to be slightly broad brush today because I'm going to go Ramonas, who we haven't done for quite a long time. And the reason why is I've sort of noticed lately, and there's definitely something afoot, they've all been sort of lurking in the undergrowth, haven't they, for a while? But now because Northern Ireland is a big thing, they smell a bit of blood. They see Rishi Sunak talking to Ursula von der Leyen, as I like to call her. And, you know, there's suddenly a chance that, you know, some break in the transmission might happen, and they've suddenly all, you know, come back out of the undergrowth. You know, all kind of
100%.
holding hands again. And I'm going to show an example of one of them right here. This is the famous Ramona Central. This is, of course, Steve Bray. The man who used to stand all day outside of the Houses of Parliament shouting, "Stop Brexit!" I mean, I say we're going to see something, but I don't see anything there. Well, I said we're going to see something. Why don't you just play it then?
You can just get Kevin to do it.
God's sake.
But you've not got a new job yet, have you? Same old job. You're still a parasite, you're still a scrounger, and you're still a malignant.
No, it's more stable for people to say the same employment, isn't it? Get off. Get off. Get off.
It really is a ghastly individual, but he's the sort of chief cheerleader of the Ramonas.
He's never really gone away, by the way.
No, he's never gone away. He's still there. He's there every single day. But Julie Hartley-Brewer had him on her show this week because he's now challenged Lee Anderson to a fight, a sort of charity boxing match. I think
Anderson challenged him. Anderson challenged, and he said, Bray said today, he said, no one wants to see 2 50-year-old guys.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
We really do.
But he claims...
And also, we want to see Ian Anderson beat the hell out of
Lee Anderson. I don't want Ian Anderson beating him up.
He's from the Jethro Tull.
Yeah, he's not any good. He just dances around with a flute.
I wouldn't mind seeing Ian Anderson.
It's not
so a trout farm.
Stop living in the past.
I know.
See
very
what
good.
I did there?
I see what you did there. Stop making up your own script, for heaven's sake. It's all about
I'm
Kevin
just too
today.
good, I
We
know.
might make you Plank of the Week.
Well, you called me in at the last moment. You have to,
well, listen, that's not my
fault. You have to lump it now.
Try not to give away too many secrets of the show. Anyway, so the whole point about where they've reached peak Ramonerist behaviour, though, this week is the shortage of tomatoes and the shortage of cucumbers. And the supermarkets, of course, are milking the hell out of this, pardon the pun. There's nothing wrong with tomato growing in this country. People have decided not to grow as many because they don't want to turn on the lights, they don't want to turn on the heating in the greenhouses, and it's not quite warm enough yet. In southern Spain, they've had a bit of a cold spell, but it's all to do with the supply chains of the supermarkets. Nothing at all to do with Brexit. And I was listening, once again, for my sins, to a BBC programme the other day, and the interviewer was desperate to get somebody to say that it had to do with Brexit, and nobody would. You know, they had the suppliers, they had the supermarkets, they had all sorts of people on, and they said, honestly, it's nothing to do with Brexit.
Well, isn't it all
then they started trying to blame climate change.
Check it out. I was on the talk last night. This is exactly the conversation we had. I pointed out that the reason for the tomato shortage in particular, but lots of the fruit and the vegetables, was a massive cold snap in Spain, where last week it was 15 degrees below zero in Ibiza.
Right.
So first of all, they go, it's Brexit. I go, it's not Brexit, it's the climate, it's the weather. Spain,
the weather.
And then they go, climate change, global warming. It's like, shut up, you lot! Just shut up, you idiots!
I mean, all week I've been having people send me pictures of supermarkets absolutely full of fruit and vegetables, and that's what most of them are. Some places are not, but the idea that you have to ration tomatoes in this day and age, I mean, what's wrong with people?
Yeah, what is wrong with people?
It's true, but the Steve Bray thing trivialises it a little bit, because the enormous opportunity and the command from the public to the democratic impulse for Brexit, it's not, you know, when you talk about Ramonas, there's a whole lot of people within the Conservative Party and others veering back towards that.
Because they've never gone away.
And that thing, right, and that's what makes people so distrustful. It's also dangerous because the democratic impulse and the instruction has not been seized and it's been squandered. And that's really, really dangerous.
By the way, let's think about Sunak. I mean, look at what he's doing. I mean, Greg Hands is now the chairman of the Tory party, a massive Remainer. Grant Shapps in charge of that pathetic new ministry, the Ministry of Energy Security and Carbon Net Zero. You can't have one with the other. You've got Jeremy Hunt and so on and so forth. He is now packing the cabinet with manic Remainers. What do you make of that?
But there was one little bit of good news on this, which was the deselection of arch Ramona Damien Green.
Yes, that was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, little bit of good news, because he was told by his own Tory constituency that he can't run for election for the Conservatives next time round, and he is...
And because of his activities against Boris Johnson.
Yes, but he is also... I mean, he never chimed with all his voters in his constituency because he never wanted Brexit either.
No. And I don't think Rishi wants Brexit either.
He's not prepared
He says he's a Brexiteer. I don't believe
I don't think he wants to be. I tell you what I think Rishi's problem is I think he just wants everybody to really like him.
And he thinks with the protocol
he wants to go to Brussels and not be shunned in the way that some of those horrible idiots in Brussels.
But he's going on about the protocol now and saying, oh, it's time for a compromise. I don't think it is actually, Rishi.
No. It is time for a compromise. Hop off and we'll get somebody else as Prime Minister.
He's in big trouble on that.
This is where people have become so used to technocratic rule for 3 decades, and that's why we get the blame of the markets rather than what we need as people. And politicians have become too accustomed to it. So there's a real muscle impulse, even those that are formally saying they want one thing, that goes back towards the technocratic impulse. And that's why we need as much of that together. We say we need as many of the public to get involved and engaged as possible, because left to their own devices, it will be more technocracy restrictions and impositions from afar.
Yeah, absolutely right. We've run out of time, though, again, and I'm sorry to say it's up to you next, Kevin, so you'll have to keep it short because you've eaten into your own time. Well, that is pretty plankish, it's got to be said.
Angela Rayner.
Oh, Angela Rayner.
Angela Rayner is my next
Tory scum
candidate for Plank of the Week.
Great pick.
She hopped onto the trans bandwagon following on from Nicola Sturgeon's suicidal idiocy
last week's winner.
Man, bloke, male rapist Isla Bryson, whose real name is Adam Graham, that Nicola Sturgeon still won't say is a man, a double rapist with full male genitalia put into a woman's prison. And the insanity of it is breathtaking. And Angela Rayner, of course, won't denounce this. What she says about...
What is full male genitalia, by the way? What is full male genitalia?
Are you sure you want...
Well, do you want me to say so?
Well, yeah.
Todger.
Yeah.
Balls.
Ah, OK.
I was going to say something else.
I just wondered what you would...
I've already sworn once, I better keep it...
All right, then.
But anyway, what she said about Isla Bryson was, it doesn't matter whether or not he's got a... of course, this individual has a penis. It does, Angela. It does. It's at the centre of the debate.
You can't actually be a rapist.
She said, and what this person is at the beginning of her transition and deserves our compassion.
Oh, my goodness.
The double rapist. I'll tell you who deserves our compassion. His victims. This madness. And Labour, all the way to the next election, Starmer, Rayner, the lot of them, or us as journalists, every day and every way we have to challenge them. What is a woman? What is a woman? If you don't say it, we won't vote for you.
They struggle because there was another Labour shadow minister on, I think, somewhere, I can't remember where, asked the same question, couldn't answer.
It's all of them. This has been going on for years. And this came up at the last Labour leader, contest. You know, Lisa Nandy,
Emily Thornberry, she struggled as well.
They just won't say it. And you know, for me, I spoilt my last ballot in the general election and wrote a very rude comment and cartoon on it because I cannot vote for a politician who doesn't know what a man or a woman is. Anyone who denies biological reality is mad, bad, or dangerous. So. The rapist deserves no compassion. None whatsoever. The victims do. But also the women in the female estate who would be housed with a dangerous sex offender. Because women in prison also deserve protection from rapists.
Yes, absolutely.
What about that idiot?
Well, we're going to stop now, though, because we're running out of time again. We've got to get to something else. The England-Wales Cricket Board from Laura.
So I follow on quite nicely from your plank. I'd like to nominate the English Cricket Board. Because they have a very loose definition about who may or may not participate in women's sports. At the moment, there's a bit of a furore because a transgender, male-identified player is playing on a women and girls team with girls as young as 12. So just in case there's any doubt about what I mean, this is somebody who identifies as a woman but is in fact a biological male. Middle-aged. You have a middle-aged biological male playing against girls as young as 12. So parents have written in their hordes to the ECB asking for clarification about the girls' safety. Because, you know, if you're a 12-year-old girl and you're opposite a biological male who is bowling and fielding, it's actually physically dangerous.
How is the age thing working, though? Because how is he playing against...
Because the ECB have a very loose definition. Anybody who identifies as a trans woman may play in any women or girls team. It's bonkers.
What, at any age? For any age group? So this is a special provision for...
It really is not cricket.
You know, you can really go off a person. That was my punchline. So, anyway...
Well, you should have got it out earlier.
The other thing is, it's just not a level playing field.
Okay.
So
that's not as good.
I had both of them, though, up my sleeve. My sleeves weren't long enough.
They're not long enough.
It's not just the girls' safety that has to be taken into consideration. I want to point out that the players will all be mixing in the same changing rooms. This is a travesty for the girls and the women.
That's mad, isn't it?
So, at the moment, all of these sports bodies are looking at... They're looking at this whole issue in terms of being inclusive and fair towards the trans people. But what they really need to do is how to make sport fair for women and girls.
I would withdraw my daughter from a team like that. I'm sorry. I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
But then they're not playing sport, and that's not fair either, is
there
it?
are plenty of other teams are available, I'm sure. I just think that's ridiculous. Why are the parents asking for clarification? They should all get together and just say we're not doing this.
Because the counties have to obey the ECB rules.
But this is where you get into these ludicrous situations, isn't it? Because some official writes down something and then everybody goes, oh, we better do that then. That's how you end up with ludicrous rules which make no sense at all.
So what happened originally was, you see, trans groups did very well at lobbying the sports bodies and getting it to be all about testosterone. And there was this distinction drawn between elite sport and grassroots sport. But there shouldn't be a distinction. It should be fair for girls and women.
But it should be fair for everybody, right? Which it isn't.
Sports at any level, and that's not what's happening.
Have we got to the point that there are so many trans people, we could just have trans teams?
Well,
just a suggestion.
I mean, I think that's a good idea, but that isn't what they want.
That's
because
not what they
part
want.
of the reason...
You can't always have what you want. Sorry, just a basic lesson.
I think it's a very cynical thing. I think most trans athletes, and I'll be very happy to be corrected by somebody if you want to, most trans athletes who go from male to female sport are doing it because they want to win something, because they were no good as a bloke. And suddenly, as a woman, they go, oh, great, now we can hit the ball a lot further, and now we can, you know, lift big loads of weights and all of this and swim faster.
Look at Leah Thomas.
It's ridiculous.
Leah
Thomas, I call her.
Leah Thomas, who was very mediocre in men's swimming in the US and now, of course, has won championships. I'm going to go further than what you said, though. I'm sorry, but I think a middle-aged man, I'm going to call it like it is, who wants to play with girls, I'd not only be worried about the girls' safety.
Not in any other situation.
I feel a bit suspicious about the whole thing. What kind of person wants to play with girls half his age?
Absolutely right. Right, so it's a good question.
It just feels wrong.
We'll leave that one hanging in the air because we've got to take another little break. We'll be back, though, with more from Plank of the Week. The former Prime Minister. I know there's been a lot of them, but this one you'll really like. This is, of course, Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We are more than halfway there now, and who knows who's going to come next? Well, I do, actually, because I've got it written down here. But next up, it's Alan Miller. Tell us who you've got, Alan, a voice from the past.
So I'd like to nominate Tony Blair alongside William Hague. Tony Blair, who's been going around the world with the Tony Blair Institute, lobbying and campaigning to have as much digital ID everywhere around the world as possible, is now saying that it should be compulsory for everyone to have digital ID in the UK. On the basis that...
Can I just ask, what's it got to do with him?
Absolutely.
You know?
He's never in the UK anyway, is he? He's always gadding around and pretending he's solving the world problems.
Like he was doing with the COVID pass before, trying to push everyone to get it. Saying that this is going to help tech development. Well, actually, we've had lots of tech development, and actually we need to have a little bit more scrutiny. But the fact that it's on so many front pages and he's got the ear of so many politicians at the moment is very concerning. He's got his eye on... as it happens, the position at WEF, he's had that position, you know, he's been involved with them for some time. But the key thing, I think, is that there is an appetite for all of this, right? This sense that it's just about convenience and we can just get it sorted. But we should remind ourselves that the big tech companies, and this now impacts a range of areas, what we were talking about before, about car control and the idea that if you've got digital ID, you're monitored and you can have things deducted, a bit like social control. Central bank digital currency is being presented, right? So all of a sudden you've got this thing which connects everything. Digital ID, central bank digital currency, where you drive, what you do, what you eat. All of a sudden you've got a situation where the potential for surveillance and control and restrictions is enormous. Now, digital ID can be used in sensible ways in some instances. We shouldn't be technophobes about it, but it has to be separated from surveillance and control.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't fancy anything Tony Blair was involved with, to be honest, or been in charge of. But he was also sort of doing a double act, wasn't he, with William Hague?
That's right.
You know, William Hague, who's become a lot more sensible since he stopped being leader of the Tory party. It actually sounds quite good now. But even so, these two has-beens have been touring the sort of radio and TV studios all this week, trying to convince everybody what a great idea they've had. It's like, well, sorry, just go away.
I think we've got to be very, very suspicious of all this stuff, and we mustn't be willing participants in it. So if you cast back to the not-so-long-ago pandemic and the way they tried to get us all to get various apps, and we would have to scan in when we went out to have a drink or go to a restaurant. Well, I always pretended to do it, and I think as long as people keep refusing, let's not make it easy for them.
There are lots of people who like doing it, though, aren't there?
They like it, because they don't have to think.
They love their apps, but it's fascinating to see how many reasons Tony Blair comes up with for only digital ID, because he just won't let it go.
What was his best reason?
Well, I think the COVID pass was really good. There's been voter ID. We also hear about immigration. He's just going to keep trusting it. As long as he never gets it, we're just going to have a panoply of reasons his whole life. He's trying to bore people into submission. It's the pure power of repetition. You know,
well, you know,
don't look into the eyes, look around the eyes, voter ID. He just won't stop.
Yeah, I've for a very long time believed that Tony Blair is single-handedly responsible for making people disillusioned with politics to such an extent that they just lost interest, and then he got away with all sorts of stuff because nobody cared what he was doing by the time he left.
In his world, though, for Tony Blair, and to a lesser extent, but similar, William Hague, in their world, the most important thing is the power of the state. The state being able to function efficiently at the expense of the people who live there. So he goes, oh, this is important for the state. Well, let me tell you, I don't care about the state. I care about the freedom of individuals far more than I care about the efficiency of the state. So Tony Blair can just go and do one. I mean, we have a real problem in this country now, don't we? With all these mouthy former prime ministers.
There's a lot of
There's so many of them.
I don't think there's ever been
there was a time when there was
Can't we just sort of lock them up somewhere and shut them up?
There's a room in the Houses of Parliament where they keep the bishops. I saw them all coming out of it one day. I was like, blimey, it's the bishop's room. And they all were sort of rushing off the house. Yeah, I think they should have an ex-prime minister's room as well.
One thing we could do is make sure that everyone responds to the digital consultation that's up until the 1st of March, which is in the UK at the moment. So everyone in Britain can have their voices heard about concerns they've got about digital.
Can you write them a letter?
Pardon?
Can you write them?
We've got something actually.
Just appeal
send
to
an
me
email.
that, you know, write them an actual letter with a proper stamp, old-fashioned way.
Also, don't download the apps. The latest one's coming out. It's a new trial for a fitness app. I mean, I don't actually trust the government anyway for my fitness anyway. But they just everything's got to be by an app. Mental health. There's an app for that. Fitness.
My
there's an
banking
app for that. Who owns the
records...
data? What are they doing with it?
Well, exactly right.
Yeah.
My banking app actually records my carbon footprint as far as they know it. They make up
pretty big
numbers. It's huge. Yeah, every single week they say that I could have charged
overdone it again.
I could have charged 3 million mobile phones or something with it. Well, but they calculate what they think you're spending it on, and they tell you what the carbon footprint of that is.
And then they think you're fair.
It's a preempter for further controls.
Absolute
but that's
rubbish.
why what we need in Britain is a digital bill of rights, and together we're going to be announcing that quite shortly, so that there are clear parameters around privacy, choice, autonomy.
They'll never do it, though.
Controls.
I mean, what was their record on any Bill of Rights? You remember the British Bill of Rights?
It depends what you mean by they'll never.
Yeah.
It depends what you mean by they'll never do it, because I think the point is now more and more the public has to assert ourselves and impose ourselves and say this is what's necessary, and then it gets done.
Yeah. Stop messing around with
our lives.
What's
that NHS app like? I never did find out.
No,
it's rubbish. It's pretty rubbish.
No idea. Still haven't got it. Isabel, your final one?
My final nomination is for Rishi Sunak. I can't hear his name now without thinking of Biden calling him Rashi Sanook, which I just think it's a much better name. Rashi Sanook is how I always think of him. So Rashi Sanook, lovely guy and all that, but he's really ballsing up this Northern Ireland Protocol thing, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he completely naively failed to study history. This isn't even ancient history. This is really recent history, which suggests that you piss off the DUP at your peril. This thing isn't going to go well if you start selling out Northern Ireland and acting as if the Brexit thing was only a thing for bits of the union that are easy.
And the other bits are all right.
Yeah, and I just think that this is going to blow up in his face. There are an awful lot of rumours now of ministers prepared to resign. I don't know whether any of them will come good on that, but I don't think he's going to get away with a sellout as he hoped he would do.
He can blithely negotiate away the whole point of Brexit.
Yeah.
So what he thinks he can get away with is he's now saying, I think we'll be all right. You know, we can let the European Court of Human Justice prevail over British trading matters. Actually, no, and you are never going to get away with that. And he thinks he can walk into a room and go, hi, guys, let's sort this out. Let's get some kind of compromise.
A bit Blair-like,
no compromise.
actually.
Yeah,
you know,
he is very Blair-like. He sounds like Tony Blair.
He's got one big advantage, and this is what he'll be desperately playing for, which is that when people hear the words Northern Ireland Protocol, they just glaze over. It sounds so boring.
Right.
But actually, this is about the integrity of the United Kingdom.
You're right, because if they do give some concession to the EU as a result of the negotiations, then the EU will have a foot in the door, and they'll go, well, maybe we could do a bit of that over here when you've got the ports of Dover and the ports of Felixstowe and all of that, and, you know, who knows where it would go. But the other reason I'd like to put him in as Plank of the Week is that picture that he's posed for with Volodymyr Zelensky, which we haven't got, I don't think, but we might have a look at later. Do you remember when they were wearing the Top Gun helmets?
That was ridiculous.
And somebody actually sent me a tweet that said, I don't fancy the look of the new Top Gun movie. It was absolute rubbish.
The weeds.
Two shortest
big helmets.
I mean, they're even smaller than Tom Cruise, I think, which is saying something. But there we are. We've got the final Monty to come. My final nomination is going to come next. Plus, we will name the winner. This is Plank of the Week. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. The final furlong has been reached, and it's time for me to give you my final nomination. And this one is a bit of a broad brush again from me, because it's all NHS unions. It's not just the Royal College of Nursing, but it's also, I think, the Unison are involved in it as well. The paramedics have got their own union. The junior doctors have got their own union. Lo and behold, after, I think, 11 different strikes of the Royal College of Nursing, which have resulted in what I'm looking at here is a total of 137,000 cancelled operations. Right? They finally decided to sit down with the government. Now, call me old-fashioned, but surely they could have done this a little bit sooner. They were due to strike next week for 2 days, 48-hour strikes, which were going to include taking basically everybody out, because the Royal College of Nursing leader, Ms. Pat Cullen, who I find to be a particularly odious individual, was saying that this time they were going to take everybody out because the way that they'd been allowing some nurses to stay behind to do, you know, life-saving things, obviously hadn't been very effective. And you just thought, well, hang on a minute, you're now saying that you are now actually admitting that you will cost people's lives. And I just thought it was a step beyond the pale. But we've now got junior doctors, you know, who I'm sure work very hard, but who do make a reasonable amount of money. Whether it's right at the beginning or not isn't really the point. But they're asking for 26% of a pay rise, right?
Yeah.
The RCN are asking for 17% of a pay rise when their average pay is already $37,000. They've already got these great pensions, you know, which adds about another $20,000 to the pot every single year for all of them. We've got the paramedics saying that, you know, everybody's leaving, we can't get people to stay and do the job, so we need more money. You know, I just think that they have shown beyond a shadow of a doubt that when we clapped for them, well, I didn't, but when people did clap for them in the NHS during the struggles of the pandemic, we were completely wrong to do it, and we were completely wrong to be asked to do it, and the government was wrong to ask us to do it, and I just think they're taking the mickey out of us now, the NHS.
You're being unfair to them, Mike, though, because they're not really striking for more money. It's patient
safety.
Of course,
That's the thing that annoys me most. It's such bullshit,
it's
isn't it?
disingenuous,
I mean,
it's
really?
a lie. If they so care about patient safety, they wouldn't be walking out.
No, and when they always say we don't really want to go on strike, well, then don't.
Lie. It's a lie.
Well, there's so there's a number of things about it. The thing is, I would always support people's aspiration to have more money, right, and earn
exactly,
more.
that's
a lot of the people on the front...
Yeah, but you don't want to give
up.
I don't mind
that.
Do that by working harder.
A lot of people on the front line work really hard. The problem in the NHS at the moment is that we've got a bloated load of consultants at the top. There's all sorts of ideological stuff going on, and there's no efficiency. So the aspiration to earn better wages on the front line when inflation is sky high is really important.
Yeah.
And we should remember how we got here. Partly it's to do with what happened with lockdowns and COVID-only NHS
Yeah, but it was
running.
bad before that anyway.
Yeah, and it is also true that the unions didn't want to defend, actually, those who didn't want to take the vaccine at the time with the mandate.
Yeah.
So they're not being consistent with their support for their staff.
No. But also, Alan, I'm only rushing you because we haven't got a lot of time left. The point about their activities, though, is that, you know, they are not striking to get more people into the NHS. They could say, just reroute some of the money and give it to us. But also, you know, the bottom line for me is that they haven't been efficient in the NHS for a very long time. And if it was a general, universal thing that all nurses were having a bad time, why didn't they all vote to go on strike? Because loads of them didn't. In fact, 2/3 of them didn't.
And also, nobody objects to nurses wanting more money or anyone wanting more money. But in my view, you work harder to get more money. Don't stop working altogether. It's not normally an effective way to be paid more.
And when they walk out, people die. That's the equation.
Exactly. It's
lives are being sacrificed on the altar.
We're going to have the last word. We've got about 30 seconds.
Sure. I just wanted to say that I also understand that they want their salary to keep pace with inflation, that they don't... Paramedics and nurses don't know a lot, but we don't talk enough about the pension, which is actually really
pension
generous.
Is huge.
Very generous.
I would love that pension.
Yeah, wouldn't we all?
Well, I would love that pension as well, but here we are. Because here is now time for the winner. And I have to say, I think this week's nominations have been particularly good. I would say that, I mean, Shamima Begum, you would want to make her Plank of the Week, but I sort of don't want to make her Plank of the Week, so I don't want to make her even famous or even more notorious, right? Yeah. Tony Blair coming back is good as well. I quite like Rishi Sunak, Suella Braverman. But do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give it to Puffin Books. Yeah. Laura Dodsworth loves it when she wins. This will make her weekend. Thank you for watching Plank of the Week. Don't forget, Nadine Dorries coming up next. It's Friday night with Nadine. We'll see you next week.